We started this back in 2015 to get the police department and the community to reconnect. And this is just one of the few things that we're going to do to make that happen. So I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm excited about JD Wall. And JD Wall is here. We're going to talk to him for a few seconds. Come on in, JD. Come talk to me, my brother.
How you doing, Aaron?
I'm good, man.
Good.
I'm good. I'm good. So what made you want to get involved in this? Well, this was really your idea to actually do this ride along. So I'm excited about doing it. And tell me why you got involved.
Well, I'll tell you, the ride along, the whole idea is, we've gone through, like you said, back in 2015, we've been part of these meetings and doing some collaborative work together in the community. And the question continues to arise, like, what exactly do the police do? Well, as a police officer, it's like, what better way to show you than to come into my world,
come into your world.
And let's actually see what happens. It should be an exciting evening here. Hopefully our weather holds out, which I've been keeping my eye on the forecast. But I think it'll be very exciting. I think it's going to be educational too. Some of the longest running TV shows happen to involve the police.
That's
and
right.
There's a reason why, because it's intriguing, it's exciting in a way, and it's also kind of mysterious to people who don't understand why we might do some of the things that we do. So
Absolutely.
I'm kind of looking forward to some of those opportunities to maybe help you to see the way I see things when I police the community.
Right.
And that sure will spark some questions, but I'm kind of an open book and looking forward to the questions and seeing where we can take it from there. So are we ready to get started?
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for tuning in. My brother Stephan is behind the camera. We're not pros at this. I'm not a journalist by any means, but I am someone that's part of the community, and I care about this community, and also JD and the police department cares about this community. So CLASS stands for Communities Learning About Shared Space, and this we want to do. We want to share space with you, the viewers, to show you this is what it's about. It's about bringing communities together, and from a police perspective. We have the community perspective. We're still going to get that today, but we're giving you from a police perspective. So right along with us, and you're going to have a great time. Peace. No worry, you're not on.
Basically, this is our front lobby, and behind the glass here is our records bureau. We have 3 full-time records clerks hired by the city of Monroe. We have a records supervisor. We also have a clerical cadet that is a part-time employee to help make up any differences that we have with the workload on the normal day-to-day.
Okay.
Citizens can come in here. They can file police reports. They can get police reports. Our records bureau is an integral part of our department because it's the last stop, or the vehicle that gets reports and the work that we do to go to the different entities that it needs to go to.
I got you.
So when a report needs to go to the prosecutor's office or Child Protective Services or Community Mental Health, or what an attorney has made a Freedom of Information Act request,
Right.
that gets prepared in this office here, on top of running all the lean work, which is Law Enforcement Information Network. It's how we file people and look at their records and stuff, and that's an important part of police work and how we get things done. Certainly here in the lobby, there's a phone that the public can use to contact dispatch, which would then get an officer here into the lobby to speak with an officer about whatever complaint that they may have.
You also, if I'm not mistaken, you share this building with the sheriff's department, right?
We do.
Is that correct?
Yeah, the building's actually, if you will, basically cut in half. We keep the eastern half of the building, they keep the western half of the building. There are some shared space that we do have within the building.
There's that word.
Shared, you like, we'll see how many, we need a bell, see how many times we can get the word shared in there.
Yeah.
But as it goes, the jail is on the 3rd and 4th floor of this building, as well as the 1st floor of this building. So for the purposes of this, for this project that we're doing here today, we won't be doing any type of tours of the jail or going inside the jail.
Right.
More so than just to know it is located here in this building. And I would imagine most of the community does know that this is where the jail is, just like they know the courthouse is across the street.
Okay.
But there's a lot of interesting things that go on here in our police station that a lot of the citizens don't know that we even have.
Okay.
So those are some things that I would like to highlight with you today.
Absolutely. Before we go on, I would like to know about what's the difference between, a lot of people might not know this, between the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department, Monroe Police Department. What's the two differences between
There's
the
a
two?
couple of really key differences. The first and foremost key difference is the amount of jurisdiction that they have.
Okay.
The sheriff's office has police authority in the entire county of Monroe, whereas the city police have full police authority within the city of Monroe.
Gotcha.
Within the boundaries of the city. Now, there are times that the sheriff, the elected sheriff, has the ability to appoint people as special deputies, and we do have some of our investigative officers that are sworn as special deputies if their investigation was to take them outside of city jurisdiction, or should they call upon our resources to help them with a larger case.
Okay, I got you.
So that can happen from time to time. And, I mean, we have it going on currently too, so that's a good thing, really. We want as many, if something major happens, we want to pull as many of our resources as we can together to get that problem solved and mitigated as quickly as possible. So we want that to happen.
Okay, fantastic.
So that's one thing. And then the sheriff himself, by statute, has some responsibilities of maintaining the jail, the civil division, maintaining security in the courts, a couple other things by statute that they're required to do. So, you know, he obviously upholds that portion as well.
Okay, fantastic. I learned a lot there. Things I had no idea about. So I'm glad you guys got an earful and an education about the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department. I thought that was important to know. Yeah, let's move on. I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah, this would be all of Monroe County.
Oh, Monroe County, okay.
Then we look at the city. The city's all outlined in the yellow color here. There's a lot of, and we'll see this more in the ride-along,
Okay.
where how officers need to know what their jurisdiction is and know where those boundaries
Where
are.
those boundaries are. I was about
Right.
to say that.
And
They
we'll
have
discuss
boundaries.
something called reciprocity, which is what we have on border streets, how we can enforce certain things on border streets.
I like that.
You know, we'll talk about that a little bit while we're out there. But you notice, I mean, a lot of the waterways and you know, on the map also encompass, you know, inside the city. You know, one thing to note before we really get started too is we're also a public safety department. Well, we are a public safety
you are a public
department,
safety, right.
and our officers are also cross-trained as firefighters, and so we do both roles. We're not, you know, the majority of the time is police work, but when we're called to a medical call or a fire, our officers also respond to those to assist our fire department with fire suppression duties and medical issues.
Okay, fantastic. I love that.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our back hallway here. I can certainly some of the nooks and crannies, kind of places, closets and stuff. I don't think are all that important.
Right.
But there's a room back here that I really want to show you guys. I'm kind of excited about it because
Okay.
I think the public has no idea that we have something like this. So it's going to be really, really cool. So let's go.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. Wow, look at that.
Might be interesting to point out, we have this red med box here. We've had such a drug crisis, at least with opiates here in the city of Monroe, Monroe County in general, as well as outlying other communities. One way to prevent pills and unused medication from getting into the wrong hands, people can bring those medications to us and we will dispose of it for them in a safe manner.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So old medication, they can bring it to the police department, and you guys would put it away in this box.
we actually would hold the door open. The citizen would actually put their medication in there, and it locks and disposes. Then we have our property officer box it up and tape everything up and secure it in our property room before we do a property destruction. So we destroy this medication in an environmentally friendly way. Where it doesn't affect our environment,
Right.
and keeps pills out of the hands of people it shouldn't be in. So we're trying not to further our problem.
Absolutely. And I know you guys have a lot of medicine that's outdated and old. So please bring it down to the police department. We have something, they have something to take care of that. So make sure you do that. That's good stuff. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Didn't know
let's-
that.
Let's keep going. Okay. Now, Aaron, don't touch anything in here
I won't touch anything. Trust me.
because there's some chemicals in here that are bad.
Yeah.
This is our evidence processing room, and we have on our department we have several officers who are trained as evidence technicians.
Oh, okay.
And they go to a special school for this, and they learn a variety of different methods of collecting different types of evidence, whether it be footprints, fingerprints, fluid samples, tool marks, getting a fingerprint off of property or
Right.
certain different surface types. We can bring evidence here, and we have a variety of different ways that we can process this to extract the evidence that we need. Now, we don't do the evidence testing here. We send that off to the lab
Okay.
for the Michigan State Police to do the testing. But in order to get a good test, we have to do good processing.
Right.
So it's very important that our evidence technicians come in here and do a good job of processing everything that they need in order to ensure a good result. There's many times that things are brought in here and they give it their best, and we're just unable to develop maybe some evidence that wasn't there, like maybe we had originally thought, and that happens from time to time. But this is an area in which they can work where they have the tools of their trade to help them with that.
So is this where they dust off the fingerprints?
We
and
can
bring-
dust on the scene of something.
On the scenes of something,
Yeah, we
right.
can't bring your house into this room. You know, so but we can bring items into
Items
this
from
room.
that, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Just a couple different items that are in this room that are of particular interest. This particular machine right here is a drying cabinet, and it's a very expensive piece of equipment, but it's very necessary. You know, when you put something away that's wet and it's not able to get air, something starts to mold and mildew, and it starts to wreck evidence. So we can hang bloody clothing in here, or
I see the hangers and stuff, yeah.
or other wet items, and then anything that falls off that would collect on the piece of paper at the bottom, and then we were able to package that piece of evidence properly for the lab to do any testing that it needed to do on that. Okay, every time that this is used, it needs to be completely cleaned out, and sanitized. So every time something goes in there, whatever piece of evidence, whatever falls off of that or whatever is in there is from that piece of evidence.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So this is all the access to this room is very limited to very few on the department.
Right.
So
Which makes sense.
Yep.
Because you don't want to corrupt evidence possibly or you know what I'm saying.
Exactly right. Evidence in the way evidence works, it's very simple. We must document every hand that has handled this piece of evidence.
Gotcha. Right.
So if my keys were evidence and they were in my possession, they would have a time and date in my name. If I had turned them over to you, then you're going to put your time, date, and name
Right.
on there in location of where this evidence was stored. So I'll always know where this piece of property went at all times. So there's never a question.
Gotcha.
This device here, I got to tell you, this one kind of, although this drying cabinet's pretty impressive, this is even more impressive. I saw this on a TV show years and years ago, and I thought it was something out of science fiction.
Really?
Yes. You can hang items in there, like your wristwatch, your ring, whatever you want to put in there.
Right.
And what you do is there's these little saucers that you use super glue, and you put super glue in the bottom of the saucer, and you put it on the bottom of these little pads down here, which are heating pads. This seals off completely. The heating pad turns the super glue into a gas. The gas then adheres to the oils on a fingerprint, which helps us then develop the fingerprint. So it's basically a fume hood or a super glue fume hood to develop fingerprints.
Dig that.
Yes,
Wow.
it's really interesting, but
it looks like it's older too. Like I see, you know.
it is, but it works.
It works.
It works really well.
Yeah.
It's been recognized by labs across America as a way that we can collect that evidence. This when you're using fingerprint powder, fingerprint powder is extremely fine, and if you were to get it on your clothing, get it on your hands, it even has a potential to stain because it's so fine. It's a graphite powder, but it's made of something a little bit different. The long and short of it is, when we turn this thing on, well, all it does is it has a way to suction things and keep the dust contained within that area. So that's always a good thing. It wants to suck stuff down, and it filters up through the top.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how it does. So then we can develop the print. Well, we would use basically some clear tape, something very similar to something like this, where you would put your print on it. You would peel this off. You would put that on your piece of evidence, whatever it is. You get the print, and then you'd seal it, and then that's so your print would always be secured in this piece, and this would be something we would send to the lab.
I love that. That's wow. That's
So
interesting.
that's how you collect
Yeah.
the fingerprint and send
Interesting.
them.
Yeah. Wow. Never knew that. Getting a lot of information here. Hope you're loving this. Fantastic.
So that's just this is just one area here in the station that I don't think people really realize that we have.
Had no idea this was here. Had no idea about any of these things, and I know the community doesn't know either. So this is great. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Yeah, we
This
can
is good
heat
stuff.
we can heat seal things. We have a laptop over here where the evidence officers can log in property. We always keep it in digital form in our police reports, the property, what's happened to it. If an evidence tech if the officer turned over evidence to an evidence tech, and the evidence tech did something with that property, they are then responsible for logging into the computer to denote where it's going from there, because it's out of the original officer's hands, like we spoke about before.
Right.
It's called a chain of custody.
Called a chain of custody.
Always got to know where that's going.
Yeah. I see it says evidence on. That's not a regular refrigerator there either, huh?
No, I wouldn't get your lunch out of that particular refrigerator. We do, on time to time, collect different fluids or different things that might be in a bottle, something that needs to be preserved for a longer period of time. We certainly have that availability to have something stored in a refrigerator. We used to have to store blood kits in a refrigerator, but things have changed in that a bit to where we don't need to do that anymore. So we moved that from upstairs to down here, so we always have a permanent location. We know where it is. And then you have to log everything that's in there. We know if I was looking at any complaint that had evidence in there, I would know it was in that refrigerator, so I would know to come right here and find it.
How do you decide who does this job in here? How is that?
It comes by interest a lot of times.
okay.
Is someone interested in doing it? Generally, we find that someone who's interested in being an evidence tech and wants to look at the evidence collection side of things, the scientific side of things,
Right, like the
perhaps a little bit.
CSI type deal.
Yeah, a little
on the
bit.
way?
Yeah, I mean, we're not solving things in an hour show here, right?
Right. It's true.
But yeah, basically we feel the interest, but we get better work out of someone who's got passion for that job, right? And that's what we want for our department. You know, when we have a need for an evidence tech, we'd make a general announcement to the department: is there anybody interested? And then for those who are interested, we would send them to the schooling needed to be part of that. I believe we have about 5 or 6 evidence techs
Wow, okay.
on our department right now.
Wow.
And there are some who were evidence techs, but they've moved on to different positions.
Yeah.
And don't do this on a full-time basis. This isn't a full-time job for anyone.
I got you.
The
I was gonna ask
very
that
road
question.
patrol officer who's out handling a domestic violence case maybe right now could also be an evidence tech
I got
officer.
you. Okay.
So
Okay. I would love to know the yellow tape thing. How did that come about? The yellow. Do you know anything about why that became the standard for crime scenes? The yellow tape.
well, no, but I could probably explain it in a different way.
Okay. Yeah. Please do. I was always wondering about that.
Why are school buses yellow and black?
Be visible.
Exactly. Same reason
Same
our
reason.
tape is yellow and black.
Okay.
That would be the only thing that I could equate it to. I don't know the history behind the police tape.
I was just I just wanted to know
think
what.
I think it has something to do with its visibility.
Okay.
We want to maybe the way it reflects light, and obviously with the wording on it, you can obviously see who's put that piece of tape up. We utilize tape a lot, especially if we get a storm, we get trees down in
Yeah.
roadways.
Yeah, for
We need to
electrical.
corn off an area for public protection.
Right.
A lot of times taping up an area is a great way, so we don't have to man that position. We can tape that off and be somewhere else if we need to be.
Okay.
If we get 50 trees down in a storm, but we don't have 50 personnel that can stand by each tree in a roadway, we would tape it off, especially we have to consider, it might be different if you have a tree or a light pole that went across Monroe Street or across I-75, a whole different story. A side street that doesn't get much traffic at 2 in the morning, maybe not such a big deal.
Gotcha.
To where, we've called for assistance with having that tree removed. In the meantime, we've got it taped off to protect the public from running into a tree in the road, and the problem will be mitigated when, one of our other city entities get there to remove the tree.
Oh, all right. That's easy. Easy enough. Easy enough for me.
All right.
Let's go.
This is the view you get on the second floor of the police station. It was several years ago, this walkway, this bridge that
yeah.
you see between the buildings.
Yeah.
It's actually from the 3rd floor of the jail. It's where they walk prisoners across into the courthouse. Years ago, they used to walk prisoners right outside and across the street,
Right.
open to the public, which created a huge safety concern for both officers and prisoners. And this ended up being developed and has actually served a great purpose. It's helped out tremendously, especially in inclement weather as well.
You know what? Out of all the time I've been living here, I never noticed that.
Yeah, it's a walkway. Is what
It's a walkway.
Yeah, it's a fully covered walkway.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
heated. It's connected to both sides of the building.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
And
Absolutely.
it's been very, very effective. So this is basically the back half of the courthouse. And over here where square brick is, that's the annex portion. That would be where the prosecutor's office is, other county offices, and then the probation department's down there in the bottom. But that would be when you go through the front doors of the courthouse. Now, to the side where the elevators are, that's what's in the back. That's the
Everything's in
back half of
close
that building.
proximity.
It is.
to make
Yeah,
things
the
happen
city
together.
center here is everything's kind
Yeah.
of centrally located.
Okay, that's good stuff.
So we're going to continue on this way.
How many floors does this have? Is it just 2 or 3?
It's 2 floors of offices, and then the 3rd and 4th floor is the
Is it
jail.
is the jails?
Yep. We'll just stay in here briefly for just a moment.
All right.
One of the officers are working here. This is basically our squad room. Every single day, our officers that come to work, our shifts are 12 hours, so we work 6A to 6P, 6P to 6A,
Right.
24/7, and all year long. At the beginning of their shift, officers will come here and sit around the table. The shift commander will sit at the head of the table and discuss any daily news with the officers, notable things that they need to pay attention to on patrol.
Right.
They'll discuss any cases that they have going on, things that need to be completed, and even some general discussion. It's kind of like you start to create a family atmosphere after a
And this-
while. It
yeah.
seems after. There's always a family member you don't like or two.
Absolutely.
That's kind of how it goes here. But anyway, the officers can come in here. A lot of resources are available to them. They got the computers they can work on. We keep our radios here, their mailboxes, and then the TV screens that you see up there actually can double as computer monitors and are fully networked. So training videos and different things that the command officer wants to go over with their shift can certainly be displayed there. Behind this door is the command offices. That's where the shift captains and shift lieutenants hold their offices at.
Okay.
So,
Nice. So you get an inside look at this. This is really good stuff.
yep, this is the squad room.
Yeah. It's like the situational room or something. where
I
you can-
guess you could
kinda
call
in
it
that
that,
way.
but I mean it's
kinda
more
cool.
the purpose of there's when the shifts see each other on the change of shift.
Oh,
Things get
I got you.
can get discussed and talked about, and then that shifts out, and then the turn of the watch is turned over to the next shift.
got you. That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of
So-
sense. Yeah.
We're not going to go in here for the purposes of this, but I
Right.
got to grab something out of here real. Actually, careful how much panning around you do in here. This is our detective bureau. We have 3 full-time detectives that work that are strictly doing detective type cases, felony complaints. I'm not talking about our vice unit that we have. They're also detectives, but for the purposes of this, we've got 2 detectives that work on adult cases. If the suspect is an adult, they work on those cases. And then we have our juvenile detective who sits there kind of in the middle and handles all of the child rape, abuse, neglect, and juvenile crime and sex offenders.
Okay.
Or sex offender compliance, if you will.
So you have 3, actually.
So we have 3, yes.
Right. Okay.
One thing I do here on the department is oversee this bureau. So I make sure that my detectives receive more advanced training for bigger cases. They have more tools available to them to solve crime, depending on what it might be. Resources to, get into the computer, or different things that we, just different tricks that they know how to do to investigate crime, to get good results.
I love it. Just where a lot of they say the magic happens.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I wish I had a magic wand and a crystal ball that I could, our suspect could magically appear and that we would all know, but it doesn't happen like that. Our detectives here are very dedicated to what they do, and they do a great job. And they really focus on being thorough. They want to thoroughly investigate a complaint. They leave no stone unturned, and sometimes that happens where we've got a great case, and sometimes we hit a dead end. I mean, that is sometimes the nature of things. But there are the times that as time goes on, something can kind of re-spark a case and get it going again, where, not the detective's like, oh yeah, I need that information, and something can snowball into something big. It's kind of exciting in the way that you never know what could happen.
How far do they go back in a case where they think there's a cold case or something like that and be brought right back up? How far can it go back? Is there a time limit on that?
There is. In certain cases, there's what's called statute of limitations.
That's it.
Yeah, and it depends on what the crime is.
Okay.
If it was like a larceny from an automobile and it's 20 years old, that is not a case we're going to reopen back up. If we wanted to open a case to look at some details of that case, because now we have, let's say we had a crime where we had a spree of something going on, but had no good leads in that case. And then there was a lull in the action for a while. Now we have another spree of it happening again with the same type of thing. We might have developed a pattern or an MO, if you will, and we might want to look at those older cases again to bring us back up to speed or put something together. Sometimes it helps when new things are developed. It helps us look at the old evidence that we have in a different way.
Gotcha.
So that's some of the training that I send my detectives to know how to do some of those things. It goes beyond basic police work. It's more of it's just more advanced. So, but anyway, this is our detective bureau. This is where that happens, and we'll hold regular meetings in here. We provided our detectives with all the tools of the trade that they need to successfully get their job done.
Right.
So,
good. It's good stuff. I didn't know this was here.
Yeah. Well, you're going to see some other things you probably didn't know were here either.
Wow. It does hold a lot of things here. It's amazing the things that are here.
The hallway. We're going to head down this way a little bit. I know the hallway is kind of dark. I don't know if we got a light that can. There we go. These are our evidence lockers, basically. Let's say, for instance, my keys were evidence, right?
Yeah.
I'd put them in an evidence bag. I'd be noted in my report. I would have labeled my property. I'd have labeled the bag. I would have labeled all the stuff that I need. And what I would do is I would then put that item into a locker. It would know on my property that I put it in locker number 34, because I have a specific officer dedicated to court duties and evidence and property.
Okay.
I would then take this key and I would put it in this slot right here. Nobody has access to this. You can't get into it. You can only get to it from through this door and on the inside of the property room.
Okay.
Okay,
So it really secures that evidence in that locker.
absolutely. When he gets on that side of the room, it gets logged, categorized, and filed on some shelving that's in there in specific areas of there. So we always know where that is. If it leaves the evidence locker and then goes to the lab, it gets tested at the lab and then comes back. I know exactly where that property was at all times of its existence while here inside the department.
So there's a trail. There's actually
Absolutely,
a trail.
there's always a trail.
Okay.
Always, always, always.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Great stuff. Good stuff.
So we'll carry on this way. Okay, we take a look real quick, but yes, we do promote working out. And
So you
staying
guys
in
do
shape.
work out, huh?
So we do have a weight room, yes.
All right. How much time you
I
spend in
want
here?
your listeners to know there's no 10-pound dumbbells laying around. It's the heavy weights, the heavy stuff.
Okay.
It's the stuff.
Now
that-
the next question is it used often? Now that's the question we need to ask.
Well, I'll tell you, here's your answer. Yes, it is used often. This got revamped several years ago where we put the rubber flooring in and repainted it. Believe it or not, historically, on the department, this used to be the old squad room.
Oh,
And if you look behind you, these were the mailboxes.
mailboxes.
back
I can see
then.
that. Yeah, I can see that.
So there has been a move and change of offices within our department as time has gone on. But officers, yes, there's no membership fee to be here. Officers certainly can come in here and work out and do what they'd like to do. This is also shared among sheriff departments, staff and personnel
okay.
as well.
Yeah.
And there's other people that'll come in here. Sometimes as some of the officers on the department, as their kids get older, sometimes you'll see their kids in here working out with mom or dad.
mom or dad, yeah.
And so it's kind of cool to to see. But yeah, we maintain this, and the officers, as equipment might break or go down, we get it replaced, and because we want to promote, good physical fitness.
Right.
Don't be focusing on this. ladies and gentlemen. But anyway,
It's all good.
Anyway, that's
No,
it.
that's good. The police ready room.
So that's never changed. The police ready room. That was always on there. They never took
They
it
never
off.
took
They
it
never
off,
took it
huh?
off the door. No.
It's like we're going to Capone's vault here. Oh boy. I know what this room is. I've never been in this type of room, but pretty much guess what this room is.
I'll let you take a guess at it.
This
Yes,
is
that's absolutely right. We have a 6-lane range here on the second floor of the police station. It's 25 yards long. We can shoot handgun and shotgun in here, but we cannot shoot rifle in here.
Oh, you can't shoot. Okay.
No, the velocity of rifle rounds is could exceed the safety standards of our backdrop back there.
What is that backdrop made of?
We're going to go right up there and take a look at it.
Oh, okay.
When we, I guess while we're walking up, I'll show you. You see these lines here on the ground. Every law enforcement officer in the state of Michigan who's a certified police officer has to go through a certification process known as MCOLS. That's the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. It's the licensing body of all things law enforcement in the state of Michigan. The state police go through it, the sheriff's office goes through it. Any of your small cities and towns and villages, any sworn police officer has to adhere by MCOLS standards. One of the standards that they have is a firearms standard, and with that comes a different volley of shooting that we will do to qualify annually for just a qualification shoot, although we shoot more than that.
Right.
But you got a 4-yard line, 7, 10, and 15-yard line. So these targets that would go on the end have the capability of running up and down these tracks. They can turn and move depending on what we have with an operator sitting in the booth. and it's got a PA in there so that all the shooters on the line can see. The days really, though, of us practicing with us just standing in one spot and shooting, we do that for qualification purposes. But a lot of our training that we do requires a lot of moving and shooting and using.
So it's like a
barricades
moving
and-
target, like?
Yeah, they can move. We will bring equipment out here. We'll put barrels out here and barricades, and we'll turn the lights off and have a set of flashing police lights in here, and that's all the light you have.
Wow.
There's all sorts of different things that we'll do, just to train and keep our skills nice and fresh.
Wow.
This particular backdrop has gone through a redesign change within the last 10 years, I believe. They used to have like a big steel trap back here, and the angles of the trap allowed the bullet to hit. It would deflect down. This here is basically rubber membrane filled with rubber pellets. Is what this is, and then behind that is steel reinforcement.
Okay.
All the walls in this building, like above us right here, that's basically
Concrete,
the floor of the third floor of the jail.
Oh.
It is all right there, but it's so thick and reinforced. I mean, we're not getting bullets to travel through that, nor are we purposely
yeah.
aiming up there.
Yeah.
So, as you can
would
see,
say.
though, after this gets full, after so much, then we would have an abatement company come in. They would peel all these back or replace these rubber membranes. They can simply vacuum all this stuff out without having to worry about lead and having some sort of a poison issue dealing with. Just
See, that's just me.
just don't lick your fingers.
My gosh, man.
It is a little stuffy in here. We've got some fans that turn on to keep the smoke and stuff out of here when you start shooting. It can get real noisy. Obviously, eye and ear protection is very important.
Right.
You would think, you see all the markings on the floor and along the wall. You're like, what the heck are they shooting at? They got marks all over the place.
Yeah,
right?
see, yeah.
Well, I would. One of the things is like
That'd be
this.
some bad shots.
If I might be doing some moving and shooting, so I might have 3 targets online, where I'm shooting on the targets and I'm moving, shooting targets, but I'm addressing the threat that's closest, right? So that threat that might be moving closest is over here, so I might turn over here and fire around. Well, where's it coming? Where's it hitting? It's hitting the wall and bouncing off, right?
Oh, okay.
So that's what you're going to see. There's a lot of times.
It's a ricochet type,
Yeah,
type of deal.
it could very well be. There's
Yeah.
been times that you could be back here and fire around next thing, a piece of shrapnel's kind of coming back at you. It does happen. Sometimes things are unpredictable, but it happens. That's
Do
why
officers
range
do they use their own guns, or you guys have guns stored away that they use?
No, our
And-
guns are issued to us by the department.
Okay, okay. I mean, when they do in target practice, or
Yeah, now our officers, some of them have off-duty guns,
Mm-hmm.
but we're required to qualify with those too. So just like we have to qualify with our regular issued duty handgun, we must also qualify with any gun that we carry off-duty as well.
Oh, I see.
To show proficiency with that as well.
do officers come up here at any time they want, or
No.
they have to schedule time to do?
You can schedule time. A lot of times we would expect a range instructor to be in here. But it
Gotcha.
also works as a safety officer just to make sure that things are kept in good order. And you could shoot by yourself, I suppose, and still maintain safe practices. But it's always best to have someone else in there. It's pretty limited access to get in here.
Right.
And should something bad happen, it's nice to have someone else here to help you out if something goes
Yeah,
wrong.
makes sense. Makes sense.
So I'll show you something interesting real quick here. So let me put these down for a moment. So we were talking about obviously there's 2 times a day, there's day and night, right?
Right.
And obviously being a 24/7 operation, we have officers that work at night. We could find ourselves in situations where we're working in an area that is totally dark and all we have available is our flashlight, and we could encounter a deadly force attack or something like that in a total night situation, right?
True.
So I have a flashlight here that was issued by the department, and that's what you'll probably see me using it tonight a little bit. But hit that light switch for a minute. So when you look at things, hold on, we even got more light coming in.
Yeah, this is kind of scary here.
Okay, so you see how dark it is, right?
Yeah, it's very dark.
But here's the thing, I don't even know if the camera can pick me up. But one thing to keep in mind is we practice like this, where we're using just our flashlight and we're using dark targets. Where it's dark in here, we're using the targets that come back and forth, and we're shooting. Sometimes I won't do it for this because it would be unsafe.
Right.
But the flash of our muzzle sometimes will light up things just briefly enough when we're shooting down range in order to see targets. We know it's in front of us. We know the scenario is something shooting at us, but we know that we have to engage that threat in some way. And so our officers, we will do some training like that as well.
That's a very powerful light. That's a very powerful light. My goodness.
It's awesome. Okay, let me get my keys though. That would be bad if we'd be in a hurt locker if I forget these. We have basically 4 patrol areas. We've got the 1 area, 2 area, 3 area, and then what we call 3 David. Now, because of that divides our city into 3 sections. The patrol areas, if you were to take basically Monroe Street as the dividing point, the 1 area would be Monroe Street and everything city jurisdiction-wise to the west. The 3 area would be everything from Monroe Street to the east within city jurisdiction. In the 2 area, for patrolling purposes, is between the railroad tracks on Kentucky and the railroad tracks that go by the YMCA on Front Street there.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now that's a very vast and big area for one officer to patrol. So what we do is we have, depending on how many officers, then we'll do like, let's say we had 6 officers working. We could do a 1 Adam and a 1 David. Okay, that's kind of how we always give them as a call sign, so they know who that is that night. Dispatch knows who that is. So 1 Adam and 1 David would be patrolling from Monroe Street to the west. And then you'd have a 2 Adam, 2 David, which would take care of downtown stuff. There's a lot of overlap. Officers can come into each other's patrol areas, but for the calls that you're going to take for that evening, unless there was no other vehicle available or another cop available to handle that call, would primarily stay to patrolling their patrol area.
Okay. All right, and you make that decision? Who does
shift
that?
Commander
the
does.
shift commander of
Yeah,
that.
and what we do is we switch it around every night.
Okay.
So officers get let's say acclimated. I know the whole city now, and I don't need to have a patrol area to know that city better. But it gives the officer some variety, so you don't feel like you're walking or driving around the same thing over and over and over all the time.
And before they had GPS, how did they learn the area? Did they?
Before GPS?
Yeah.
We print them out a city map and start driving around and looking at your street.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it was the old-fashioned way of how you learn how to do it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it makes it a lot easier, obviously, with this GPS thing.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really, honestly, our officers are required in training. When they go through the field training program, when we hire a brand new officer, within their first month, they're required to know all the city streets.
Oh, okay.
And they, by the end of that phase, the need for them to pull out a map or have to ask where they're going should be done by then.
Yeah, I mean,
if they don't know where they're going by then, it might create some problems down the road.
I would say so. I would hate an officer to pull me over as I'm walking and say, "Hey, do you know how to get to this place?"
Yeah,
that's usually the other way around.
Yeah, something bad's going on. Can you tell me how to get there? So
yeah,
we're gonna head back. We'll go down the elevator. We'll go back to my office. We'll get what we need.
And then we go to hit the road.
We'll head out.
I always wonder where the prisoner come out at, and I guess they come out of this alley. Maybe some of you guys have witnessed this and been there yourself, but I guess they come out of this door here.
Oh, there's no guessing about it. They come out of this door. Absolutely. And if we were to go in through this door, it's also a way for us to get inside, but we can come right on in this way.
Oh, okay.
And then when you go around the corner, we go in either. I can go upstairs to the second floor, or the third floor from the staircase. The prisoners come out of this door right here, and then this takes me into the back half of the police department through my records bureau.
Do they come out by themselves, or they come out with
No, they come out
someone?
by themselves.
They come out by themselves. They
Yep.
go straight, so they know exactly
Yeah, once
where to
they've
go.
been released, there's a series of hallways and doors that's got to close and lock, and then the next one can open just for security purposes. And then the prisoner gets released, and then they know to exit right through there.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's the release.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, we got the inside view of this ride-along experience. Now we're going to actually take you on the road for this really, really ride-along experience. So, you know, we always got to start off with the bad boy, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? No, no, I'm really looking forward to this. This is my first experience doing this, and I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy this whole process of this ride-along. So, what are you doing here?
Basically, at
Captain.
the beginning of our shifts, the officers will come out here. We keep our patrol cars here in the back parking lot of the station.
Right.
And we want to make sure our emergency equipment's working for multiple reasons. The police car does us really no good if it has missing or defective equipment.
Right.
So that's what we do. We ensure that everything's working on it properly at the beginning of our shift. Is there any damage, something we need to note so we can get repaired? But just the way vehicles are, something always will break on them at some point in time. So it's just a way to ensure that we're ready to go for our shift.
And this is a Ford, right?
This is a Ford. It's a
All
Ford
right.
Explorer.
Ford tough. I'm just want to say, I work for Ford Motor Company, so I'm excited that they use Ford products. You know, that's how we're built, baby.
Yep. So
Well, I see you got the supervisor on the front and everything, huh? Is that,
yeah.
it makes you feel a little special, doesn't it? I'm just messing with you.
A lot more responsibility.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it's this particular vehicle is a fully marked patrol car, but this one, what makes this one special, at least for tonight's event, is the fact that it doesn't have a prisoner cage in the back of it, so it makes filming purposes a little bit easier for what we're trying to accomplish here.
Absolutely.
And then generally, who would drive this would be the shift captains. So he would have shift lieutenants and then the road patrol guys underneath of him. You know, in an extreme emergency, you could always transport somebody to jail if necessary, but we really wouldn't prefer to use this one if we could avoid it.
You know, speaking of emergencies, I want to make sure we talk about this. It's very important that recently around the country, there's been a lot of 911 calls just to call on people for no reason, for maybe having barbecues and all different types of things. What is the purpose of 911, and when should you call 911?
You should call 911 when you have seen or you're involved in something where someone is going to get seriously hurt. You need help at your house right away, or wherever your location right away. 911 basically opens up a priority phone line through Central Dispatch and gets us to it gets us the information quicker to get us to your scene faster.
Right. So some people out there, they do abuse the 911.
They do.
Their phone call. Is there anything that can be done about that? Because I know it takes time out of someone that actually needs an emergency, where the patrol officer could really be used somewhere else to be going to, something that's not of an emergency. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? That when you're being called on a 911 call, and I guess it's on the officer, you make that decision when they get there if it's really worth being there or not. I mean, does it work that way?
There are some circumstances that we get a 911 call, we go to a certain place, and we realize that what they want to tell us or talk about was not an emergency, not even close.
Right.
That might be a good chance at that point to remind them at that point what 911's for.
Right.
After the call's all over, at least try to mitigate their issue, what's going on at that time, and then maybe provide them the non-emergency number.
Oh, so there is a non-emergency number.
There is, yeah.
Is that nationwide or is that just in the city
No, I
or
mean
in the county?
it'd be a local number for
Okay.
here locally, and here in the city, if you dial 241-3300, whether you called 911 or the non-emergency line, it does go to the same place. It's just how that call gets prioritized. and the amount of attention that type of call gets.
I got you.
On calling 911. If you were to roll up on an accident scene and someone was hurt, 911. You see someone's house on fire or something's burning, 911.
Right.
Someone's bleeding or having a medical issue, 911. You know, you were chopping wood in the backyard and you got a sliver in your finger, not 911.
911. Right.
You know,
Exactly.
but we do have people that do call 911 for circumstances like that. We kind of take it as a totality of the circumstance. What is the nature of it? Is it worth going through? We do have some people who will abuse 911.
Yeah.
And they continuously call and call and call and call. And in fact, it's against the law to continuously misuse 911.
Oh, is that right?
It is.
So that's part of the policy, or that's the Michigan policy?
That's a law.
That's a law. That's
Yeah.
for someone to abuse 911. So someone can actually be sued for that, or they can go to jail for that.
Well, they can be
or
charged with
they
a
can be
crime.
charged with a crime.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know
that's
that.
a misdemeanor
It's
crime.
a misdemeanor crime. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Is that that's just like to abuse it, like calling over and over? That's not to call someone for I don't know, for barbecuing in the backyard or anything like that, or anything like.
well, I mean, if someone wanted to call 911 because someone else was barbecuing in their backyard, that's probably not
As far as
reason.
harassing, I'm talking about as far as harassing, individuals. I mean, is that something that someone could be brought up on charges, knowing that
Yes.
this is not an emergency, and it was an emergency? You're doing this based off whatever. It could be like bigotry or anything of that nature. Just doing this to harass this person. That could possibly be brought up on charges. And would that
Absolutely.
be brought up by the state or the city or that individual person
Well,
that feels
it's
that
a
they're being
state
harassed?
charge now. See, in the city of Monroe, we've adopted state law as local ordinance.
Okay.
Here in the city, so, but yes, technically it's a state. It's a crime by the state or of the state to misuse 911. So that's what we would do. We would draft up a report, and we would send that to the prosecutor and let them make an overall determination based on the totality of what's in that police report.
Do you hear that? So a non-emergency call should be, what number is that again?
241-3300.
241-3300. That's a non-emergency call. So let's not waste our taxpayers' dollars and our police officers' time on 911 calls that's not an emergency. Again, let's make it happen. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
If I could add just something into there,
Yeah.
though, if somebody really feels that they need the police for whatever the reason being, I mean, there's many different outlets and different avenues out there to try to get some information as well. One thing that we've been doing is we've got some community cards that's got some information, helpline, different phone numbers. Sometimes at 2 in the morning, it's, we've responded to calls if someone has a question about their taxes and they want to call the police for that. Well, I would maybe wait till normal business hours and
Right.
call a tax specialist or your accountant.
Right.
We do have that. I mean, I wish we could handle everything, but it doesn't quite work like that. I specialize in a very specific area.
People actually call about taxes, man. Are you kidding me?
I couldn't tell you the kind of what I would deem to be a crazy call that I've gone on.
Oh, my goodness.
But you know what? I mean, it does. When we go to those calls and we find out that's the reason, we point them in that direction. It's like there's nothing we can do to help you in this one. You're going to need to call this person or this agency in the morning during normal hours. So
Is there a law too, if someone calls, let's say someone calls 911 on you, that they're not allowed to tell you who made that call towards you? Like if I say, well, who called 911? Is the officer obligated or cannot say who called 911, or they call anonymously? Is there any way to find out?
Well, there are sometimes that people do call anonymously. The police aren't the ones who are answering the phone call.
Right.
That's
right.
a civilian
I got you.
dispatcher who's getting
Yeah.
certain information. It's the dispatcher who is sending that information to us. So a lot of times we're asking the very questions to dispatch, like who called on this, or who is our caller, who. So a lot of times if we don't know, we don't know.
Right.
It's not a matter of we're just making something up or we don't want to tell you. A lot of times we just don't
You
know
just
that
don't know.
information.
Just don't know that information.
So we're there. A lot of times we're not saying it did or didn't happen. I think people get frustrated knocking on the doors like, hey, someone's complaining about you got loud music, just letting you know.
Right.
Kind of thing. And for whatever reason, the caller is then appeased. We did our job by informing, whoever was being called upon that, hey, someone reported a problem, you know, and I've told people I don't see there being a problem here now at this time, you know.
I'm sure that's probably one of the calls you get the most is probably noise. They're playing loud music or they're having a party too late or something of that nature, and you go to those calls a lot, right?
We do. We go to a lot of general assistance type calls.
Yeah.
I don't know that one outranks other
Okay.
ones. I mean,
Yeah.
but general nuisance complaints. I know that the city of Monroe has just enacted a website page where people can report general nuisance, things that are non-emergency, that can be addressed at a later time. I think they're still working on its development to get it really up and off and running. But that's something in the works, another avenue for people to be in contact with us to help out with their issues that they might have.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Here we go.